That was beautiful. Thank you. And we want to thank Carol Porter. She watches from home for this beautiful poinsettia. Isn't that gorgeous? She sent that for us. She and Charles share a birthday, and they will have a birthday on the 17th, and that's that Wednesday. I believe that's Wednesday. Happy birthday, Charles. And Carol. Happy birthday, Carol. We'd sing for you, but without you, we might sing off key, so we'll just wait for that. That was beautiful. Boy, that harmony, they sounded like angels, didn't they? They are, yeah, our angels. Inner peace is the reason for my journey. Inner peace, inner peace. How about you? It's been I recognize that at some point in my spiritual journey, that the reason for my spiritual journey is to find inner peace. And I know at different points in our lives we may have different expectations, different desires, different anticipations, wants, whatever it is, goals that we have. But I guess that I settled into the fact that the reason for my life here on this earth, and the reason is that to find inner peace while I'm still here on this earth, in this body. What does that mean? It means to be, even in the midst of the storm and everything going on around you, you can still find a place of peace. The way we interpret the scriptures, sometimes people are surprised. They will have had an idea that unity never talks about the Bible, and that unity never talks about the life of Jesus. Well, he's our great example. We just don't believe that he said that he wanted to be worshiped. So we talk about the words he spoke, not the words that have been spoken about him since he passed on. So we do use his words. And I think powerfully, I was thinking this week how powerful those words were when his disciples said, and they watched him, listen, they observed this man. They saw how peaceful he was. They saw that he didn't get into all the conflict that everybody else did. He remained peaceful no matter what. And they said to him, Master, teach us to pray. Teach us to pray. Now, the way we interpret the biblical scriptures, both the Hebrew scriptures and the Christian scriptures, is that we look at them as the parables, as stories, so that they could be retold over and over and over again. They weren't to be taken literally, but symbolically. And that's the way they taught then, because many times the words weren't written down. We know that. There were stories that were retold and retold. So we know that symbolically what that meant then for his followers, the disciples, was that they observed him and they saw that when he needed to pray, he didn't pray to be seen. He went away to pray. He went into the quiet. And that symbolism, too, is to go within. He said, the kingdom is within. That's what I've come to tell you, that the kingdom is not up there, out there somewhere. I've come to tell you it's right here. And so that's where you find inner peace, too. But he said, go first to your temple, which is here. Go into the quiet. Go into your heart, and you'll find God. It's that simple. Teach us to pray. Teach us to go within. So inner peace is the reason for my journey. is the destination I've always yearned for. Each step brings me closer to home. Each and every step brings me closer to home. I was thinking about all the different things we might imagine and strive for when we're younger, and those are good. Those are great. Don't ever give up your desires and your wants and whatever it is you want to create with your life, because you are co-creating it with God, the presence. You are co-creating your life by staying positive. Don't ever allow yourself to feel like the victim. And if you do, you know, you may want to wallow in that for a bit. Go ahead if you need to. Get yourself out of that mindset as quickly as you can, because there is no future to that. You're to take responsibility for your life and co-create the life that you're going to be peaceful with. There's always a give and take when we're choosing something in the world. Like, let's say you went to your spiritual coach and you say, I have a desire to build my business till it's the biggest and the best on this earth. Well, that's great. That's great. But okay, what are you going to give up to do that? Sometimes when someone's failed at something, they don't see that it may have been a blessing, because in order to do that, you're going to have to give up some time with your children. You may have to give up the time that you would spend on your health. You may find that your life becomes so chaotic you couldn't possibly find peace. So that's why I just wanted to ask you this morning to set your priorities for what it is that you really, really want. And at this point in my life, I want inner peace. Inner peace. How to find that? It's not always easy. How do I find inner peace when life is messy? Life just keeps on being life, doesn't it? Someone said, and it's been said that Paramahansa Yogananda said it, but I don't believe he did, to just assume that life is like an insane asylum and everybody's crazy. I don't think he said that, because he didn't ever say derogatory things about people, but there's a point to that. When you can kind of look at the world and not try to figure it out, not need to know why, just say, okay, how can I stay out of that confusion and chaos? How can I stay out of that? Life is messy when we're caring for family members, and the situation appears impossible, doesn't it? We've got our jobs, our own kids, our careers, perhaps going to school ourselves. When our children's behavior is worrisome. What about when the neighbors irritate me? That happens too, doesn't it? When people I care about are facing challenges, when I'm worried about the unrest in the world, those are all human things that we have in our lives. They're real. They're real. And I can't stand here and tell you they're not real. They are. But how do I find peace in the midst of that? You see, that's the challenge, isn't it? Sometimes I look at the unrest in the world, and then someone else had said it looked like the United States is having a nervous breakdown. Maybe it is. I don't know. perhaps, but I'm not going to have one with it, okay? That's my decision. That's my decision. Because you see, I value of what was my highest value? Inner peace. My highest value isn't being right and making somebody else wrong, being the smartest in the room, the wealthiest, the most successful, the most degrees, the most this, that, or the other. My highest priority is inner peace. And that's hard to find sometimes. It happens in my life too. I mean, I have a family. We all have things that go on. I know I told you that in July, my husband and I needed to go out to our younger daughter's wedding. She was 48 and got married for the first time. Isn't that something? And she had a lovely wedding on their property there and just absolutely beautiful. But the pain of it was that my other daughter was home sick and too weak to go. And we were all worried about her because we didn't have a diagnosis, and it was pretty painful for the rest of us to go, and even her family went. We took her kids and her husband. We went anyway. So how did I remain peaceful and allow? I think that's what we decide to do. We all have problems. And so I decided to put those aside. What had I done? I took that and I handed that to God. I've told you how sometimes I'll prioritize my prayers. And this will be number one. I'll say, okay, today. And a lot of times when I'm walking, I love to walk in the morning. I won't be walking tomorrow morning. It's too cold. But maybe, I don't even know, by afternoon. I don't like the cold weather. But I'll prioritize my prayers for that day, and as I prioritize them, I give them to God, and I don't take them back. And so that's what I had done when we went out there. We're going to enjoy Jonna's day and be happy for her, enjoy every moment of it, and we did. But I had handed that concern to God. And then on the way home, I took it back, like all mothers do. And the joy and the gratitude and the ecstasy in my heart that I have right now is that she has gotten better and is getting better every day. And we thank God for that. We thank God for miracles. But so, yes, indeed. We all have times where life is messy, things are going on. Perhaps, and maybe this is just for me, maybe this is my life's lesson, perhaps all the unrest in the world is our lesson. Maybe that's our challenge. Maybe that's where we're supposed to find peace in spite of that, like Jesus did. He went into the quiet. He didn't go argue with the Philistines, or he didn't go argue with the Romans. He didn't go argue with anybody else. He let them be right about whatever it was they wanted to be right about. And he chose to be right within his own heart. And he knew that was the example he had come to show us. So maybe that's the lesson. Maybe that's what we get from all of the division, the unrest. Could this be a big lesson, a learning lesson for me? How do I step back, not criticize, not judge, and go into my heart and find peace in spite of everything going on in the world? So that's the reason for my journey, is to find inner peace. One of the things that happens with, we can come to doubt we can sometimes lose our faith. We can question the good. We can question God about what's going on in the world. And I think that's one of the really big challenges that do test our faith, is that that's when we do go into our heart and choose to see peace. One of the ways that we can develop this is that I know that when we have loss in our lives, we tend to feel like something was wrong, right? Especially if it's a really, really deep, deep loss. And I placed a paragraph about this in the bulletin so that you might look at it later. There's a law that's called the law of transformation. And it's the understanding that there are no mistakes in the universe. How about that? Is that new to you? No mistakes in the universe? If something leaves your life, it's aligned with your soul's journey and the divine plan. Now, those of you that have had significant loss, I understand that's going to hurt. I remember I said something like that once in a Sunday service, and one lady afterwards really took me to task over it because she was still grieving over the loss of her husband, and she just plain didn't want to hear it, that this could have any benefit for her in the future, that this could have been part of any divine plan, that this had to be something going wrong. And spiritual teacher Byron Katie taught that as long as you stay with that mindset where you're arguing with reality, where you're arguing with what happened, then you're never going to find peace. Never. When you're arguing about, and like I said, I know that's hard. I know that's really hard depending on the loss you've suffered. This law helps you perceive the new form in which you can reframe whatever has occurred in your life, whatever it was. Maybe it's a marriage that went south and you didn't want it to happen. And you're going to spend the next 10 years of your life grieving over that and the what ifs, and if he'd only stayed, and what if yourself to death. And the entire time you're grieving that, you're not living. You're not finding any inner peace. And you can change your point of view any moment. I think that's the big thing for people in my generation that we grew up, the baby boomers. Just, life is the way it is. Life is the way it is. No one ever told you could change your thoughts. Nobody ever told you that. Just get over it. A tough parent might say, well, that's tough. You're just going to have to get over that. Or we were never taught a gentle way of speaking to ourselves, a gentle way of forgiving ourselves and others. We were taught to judge others and maybe even hope that they'd go to hell, right? I mean, there was that too. So I remember talking to a friend many years ago and telling her my feelings on things, and that was before I found unity. when I found, those people believe the way I do. And I was trying to explain to her a gentle, kind way of looking at the world. And I said to her, this thing about hell, that doesn't make sense. A loving God wouldn't punish people and send them to hell. And she was one of the kindest, most gentle people I've ever known, and generous and gracious, always cooking for the fellowship there at the Methodist Church. But she said just as plainly as she could, "But Judy, don't you want them to be punished?" And I knew, you can't change someone, and that was fine. That was fine. But then I knew early on that the presence is what I call God. Is a loving God, a loving presence that wants our best. And when we're aligned with that, our lives go so much better. We stay healthier. We stay happier. Prosperity comes to us much easier. That's our secret, is that we're aligned with God. I had someone that asked me this week, and I just didn't know what to tell her. I told her I was as kind and loving as I could be, but she said, "Why do all these bad things keep happening to me? Why would the Creator allow this to happen to me?" And I understood that was a conversation I couldn't get into over the phone. There just wasn't enough time to explain that in a language, in a frame of consciousness where she would understand it. You see where I'm coming from? You've got to have a certain level of understanding. So some of the harder questions, until we've reached a certain level of spiritual understanding, we're not going to understand it. And so we just prayed together, and we'll get together and talk some more. But I understood too that, just my spouting off some affirmations or something to her wasn't going to help her. Not at the level she was at. She needed to hear something else. She just needed to hear me say, "It's going to be okay, honey. It's going to be okay. People are praying for you. We're holding you up. It's going to be okay. We're going to bring you some clothes." There was a fire, and all of her clothes were burned up. So sometimes, that's what you do. Orrin Lyons is he was the leader of a Native American organization, and he was being interviewed one day, and he said that what we aspire to do when we know better is to do what the faith keepers do. And that is, when there's a lot going on in the community, in the family, in the world, there's one person, at least one person in the group, in the clan, in the tribe, that's the faith keeper. And that person remembers who they are and who they're aligned with. And they don't go off scattered and worried and fearful and spreading fear. They remain faithful in who they are. They remember who sent them. They stay aligned with that. And they don't deviate from it, no matter what's going on. So how do we find if it's so easy, right? How do I find that? Release what isn't peace. Whatever thoughts you have, go off in your corner if you have one. I have so many corners in my house, it's not funny. just me and my husband that live there, so I just go in the corner furthest from him, and And because he's always got something going on. Think about what feels bad. What makes you feel bad? Release that. Anchor into the breath and the body. Breathe, breathe. When you're fearful, you're shallow breathing. You're worried, you're afraid. You won't take a good breath. Take deep, deep breaths and breathe deeply and bring yourself right back into your body. Because remember, all that stress, it will stay in your body and cause illness. And then return to the presence. I could see peace instead of this. Reframe it, whatever it is. And remember, one of our affirmations that we remember that God provides ways when to human sense there is no way. I remember that so many times when things look impossible, and I want to bring myself right back to peace. I say that God provides ways when to human sense there is no way. Now I just pray that each of you will have a wonderful, peaceful day. And each morning when you get up, remember these practices and let go of whatever is causing you not to be peaceful. Thank you for your time.